Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. You are in for a treat tonight. Before I introduce you, here's a quote just for this episode. Number one, care for people. That is our absolute foundation and our focus in everything that we do. And it's not just our team members, but it's also our clients, it's the community, it's the properties that we work in, the people that live in those properties, that work in those properties, right? It's a major, major focus and care for people. And that spreads in everything we do. And it's our first thought with everything that we do in business. Travis Stokes, our guest today, is back
What is
again
happening,
for
everybody?
what'd you say?
What's happening, everybody?
Another episode. If you haven't listened to episode 506, I snagged our quote from the last time Travis was on the show. People focused, values driven, present action asphalt, total badass leader in his space, friend of the Culture Matters podcast, member, board member of the Top Contractor School. Thanks for coming back on the Culture Matters podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jay. Appreciate you, man.
So this
Love you.
quote, yeah, I was listening to our other episode and I love this quote. What are your thoughts? Has it changed?
No, it has not changed. I mean, in fact, it's probably more so today than ever before, man. Like people are everything. People are absolutely everything. One thing that I say is like people don't do business with other businesses, they do it with other people. And I say it quite frequently because it's a fact, right? Like they do it with the people they have relationships with. So in our business, it is, everything that we do. And that's why we've made our tagline people focused, value driven to heavily, heavily emphasize that.
People focus, values driven.
Value driven.
Okay, what's the difference between value driven, values driven? Or how do you
So the value-driven portion is not just driven by our values, but also driven to provide value for the customer, right? So in essence, we want to make sure that every dollar is being spent wisely that a customer trusts us with. So we provide the most value that we can for our customers, whether it be through the projects that we set up, the conversations that we have, the scopes that we write, the quality of the work that we do. We want to provide the most value, and hopefully more so than our competitors.
how do you view competition?
How do I view competition? That's a good question. I think healthy competition, helps you strive forward as a person, as a company, right? I think without competition, you get lazy. You get on your heels instead of staying on your toes. I think that in order to move forward in business, in order to stay sharp, in order to innovate, in order to challenge ourselves, we have to have competition. If
Hmm.
we are a monopoly, usually we get lazy. We tend to do things the same way that we always did, and that might not be the best for our clients.
Why not?
I think that our clients deserve the best from us, deserve the best from our companies, right? And so if we're not innovating, we're doing things the same way as we always have, then we're not giving the client the best that we could. So I mean, you can almost use an analogy of like being in the medical industry. If we always did the same things that we did 1,000 years ago, people would be dying at a much higher rate and living much shorter lives. So if the medical industry didn't innovate, then there you go, people would be dying quicker. So same thing for us, probably just a little lower stakes in the asphalt industry. But we wouldn't improve the roads that we drive on. We wouldn't be able to make the most of every dollar spent in a budget. We wouldn't be able to provide the best service for our clients.
What do you think could happen if my grandmother just had a heart attack? The ambulance is bringing her to the hospital, but the car gets stuck in a pothole of a road that wasn't paved properly.
Wow, that's a combination of the analogy I use and my service. I love that. What do you think, Jay?
I never thought about it until you said what you said, and I'm like, oh,
Dude, yeah. And if we didn't have ambulances, where would we be in the medical industry, right? If we didn't have smoothly paved roads for those ambulances to drive on, where would we be? I don't know. It would be mass chaos, death, and destruction.
I wonder how many flat tires per year ambulances get as a consequence of poorly paved roads.
I hadn't thought about this yet, but maybe that turns into our mission. We're saving lives through smoother roads. We're providing the pathway to the hospitals. We're pathway to life.
I mean, I remember distinctly having a very low to the ground BMW in the city of Philadelphia, and based on the poorly paved roads, having to consistently get new tires. And as a young, ambitious, insecure, arrogant, undercapitalized young man, I almost couldn't afford to continue driving that car.
I love it. So you're saying we need to open up an office in Philly?
Why, all, this, it's comical, right? But what's the importance of company purpose today, from your standpoint, as a leader of people, as a leader of employees, as a leader of a business?
Yeah, and so you were just at the top contractor school inner circle retreat that we just had recently. I think the main theme of the weekend was relentless vision, and I think vision and purpose are similar, but obviously different. But I like focusing on the vision part of it, and that was such a main theme for the weekend. But if we don't have an aim in our company, we don't have a vision, we're just a ship without a rudder, right? And so for us, it's providing the highest level of client service that we possibly can, and making their lives easier. And also making them look better in front of their owners and their managers so they can get promotions, right? But our whole goal is to make their lives easier, make them look better. And so I think if we don't have some kind of vision
Hmm.
for where we're going and the standards that we want to set for our company, then we're a ship without a rudder, man.
Yeah, what would you say is that this, how do vision and standards in your view complement one another?
I think in order to, it's a good question. I hadn't thought about it, but in order to really carry out your vision, you have to have high standards, right? You have to have standards in order to achieve, your goals, in order to achieve whatever vision, you're trying to set for your company. I think, low standards probably lead to, a lesser ability to, find your aim, to find your pathway in order to achieve your goal. The higher standards we set, it speeds up, the achievement of that vision, of that goal. I think it could be different for every company, but that would be how I would see the relationship. How would you?
Oh, well, that's okay. So let's look at a scenario where I'm saying that this is the vision. I may even believe that that's what I believe. My people are going to judge me based on how I actually show up, what I do, what I don't do. So it's like standard is the action and interaction.
Hmm.
In like the vision could be like words and thoughts. Are my words, thoughts, and
So
actions
monkey see,
integrated?
monkey do. Is that what you're saying?
Like words, thoughts, and actions integrated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are the people going to believe my vision? Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. What's the how can I increase the likelihood of people believing my vision? What relationship do my actions have with that?
I think once again, it's an easy saying, monkey see, monkey do. I mean, if people are seeing that you're doing all the right things that you're preaching, right? They're going to follow you, right? And so it's a lead by example situation. And so obviously you're gonna set your vision in your company, but if you're not the one that's every day doing the things that's going to carry out those standard, carry out that vision, and you're not the one that's leading by example, there's no way you're ever going to achieve the vision, in my opinion. So your people are going to see what you do, and they're gonna copy it, and I think it's as simple as that.
What are some of the standards that you uh, live by, or that may, yeah, comprise action asphalts, even if they're not explicit, like maybe on the wall or something, or just like maybe they're implicit.
So I think a big one is a care for people, and it would be empathy for people. And that's kind of an unusual standard, right? But not necessarily like our cleanliness of our trucks or the cleanliness of a job site. Those are all great standards, and we have them in our company. But I think the most important one is caring for our employees, caring for our community, caring for the people that are on the job sites. Like the quote is that we opened up, right? We have a standard for empathy. If we have a standard or caring for our people, then I think that we're obviously going to care for our people. So I would say that's a little. I don't think we've defined our standard yet for that. Like
Okay.
actually defined it. I think I carry it out in my everyday, but I don't. I think I need to work on defining exactly what that looks like. It's natural for me, and I think because of that, our people carry that out onto our job sites. Thereby, they carry it out,
Oh,
in
what's an
their
example of
interactions
caring?
with they carry it out in their interactions with communities, with homeowners where we're working in an HOA, with tenants on a property, right? If they see me caring for them, they're going to care for, clients. If they see me interacting with a client or a tenant on a job site and I'm doing it in an empathetic manner, they're probably going to do the same. So, that's big for me. Everything we do is about people. And so if we're not really showing our team members how to do that, then I think we're missing big.
An antonym for empathy is apathy, indifference, a lack of feeling, or a lack of ability to feel compassion for someone or something. In contrast, empathy is the ability to identify, relate, and feel compassion for a person, particularly a person who is suffering or hurting somehow.
Do you feel that a lot of times in business, in our quest to become the best business with the highest standards and make the most money, people lose their empathy and they turn more towards apathy because it's more of a focus on just the money instead of the people.
Well, how do we bridge the gap between helping someone that does want a hand up versus hurting someone inadvertently because they are used to getting a hand out?
Explain that a little further.
I can enable someone to continue being entitled, like acting out. I can entitle someone and implicitly condone behavior that's not good for them or others.
Hmm.
I can also, hold another to account to increase the likelihood of them being less entitled and more responsible. And I think that the how of the how in that is the $1 billion question. The how to how to help, right? How do we actually hold people to account, decreasing shame, increasing personal responsibility? Like, so that would be the first thing that comes to my
I
mind.
saw I saw something the other day that you were talking about leaders that preach accountability, 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 and then they're not leading by example. So
Well, that would be, ooh, that's good. Yeah, I think that would be that would be a that would be a consequence of not being as responsible as one could be, would be to put all the weight on others.
because wouldn't we as leaders want not only to hold our team accountable, but be held accountable as well by our team.
Oh, okay. So no, not if we were insecure and incompetent and cowardly and afraid and unsure and unsure as in we didn't know what our vision was, and because how can we be relentless of what we don't know and don't
Mhm.
and haven't thought through? And if we're not relentless and acting towards, well, then why would we want feedback? How could we handle it? We wouldn't, because we'd be too insecure to receive it. So,
Sure,
of
sure.
course, but not like style. I just took I got an A minus so far in the Soviet Union course on the Peterson Academy, Michael Malice's course. I highly recommend it for leadership training because Stalin was so paranoid and so afraid. He had to control everyone and everything to the point where even the best doctors ended up dead or in prison, and he was only surrounded by incompetence to where when he got real sick, they had to go to the prisons to get help from the doctors he had in prison because he didn't like what they had to say. So he got dumber doctors to tell him what he needed to hear.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like being in a room with people that are smarter than you, have done better things than you, and I think that's like, what a networking group should do, what a community should do is make you level up. Have people give you the criticism that you need.
If the
Have people be
company's
honest with you.
numbers
Have
are,
have people keep you accountable for the things that you should be kept accountable for. And I think that goes both ways. I love criticism, man. Bring it on.
if the company's numbers aren't right, I'm getting a new CFO to tell me what they need to be. And that's like if the numbers aren't making sense, let's not figure out what the problem is. Let's get a new financial person. That's what we're talking about here. You bring up such a really important topic about accountability. I would just want to go back because so we don't lose the audience there. It's like you're saying, shouldn't accountability come back up the hierarchy?
Sure.
Well, if it doesn't,
Absolutely.
well, yeah. So if it doesn't though, then what really is happening? What is really going on? What
So we
is
did
actually going on?
we did a in our last leadership meeting, which was last Wednesday, we did a hot seat. We had all the leaders of the different quote unquote departments. We have pretty small departments, being an only a 30-person company. But each of the leaders took the hot seat, and the other leaders went around and said, "Hey, what do you want to what they thought that leader should improve on for 2025?" And it was just open forum, man. Like fire away. And so I took the hot seat first, and people had their criticisms of me. Great, awesome. Everyone went around and had their criticisms of every leader. But like I think that's what accountability looks like, is it should come from your coworkers, your colleagues, from the people below you, from the people above you. It should come from all sides. And really that healthy criticism, that accountability of holding each other to the standard that the company has set, that we have set for each other, is what's most important.
When was the what's your take on personal responsibility? I asked you that in the other episode, but has it evolved since?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think innately I'm a pretty responsible person, probably because it was built into me. So I don't think about being responsible every single day, like what I need to wake up to do to be responsible, to care for our team, care for our company. Like my dad was a very responsible person, and just imbued that into me every single day. Like, hey, here's the chores you got to do. Here's the tasks for the day. And so like I've carried that on, and I think speaking of accountability and leading by example, my dad was always that person for me. And so we need to have someone in our life that is that person, to them that can set the example of what responsibility looks like. What does personal responsibility look like for me? I mean, it's taking care of our team, it's making sure that our ship is headed in the right direction, that our company is financially healthy, that, it can support all of our team members so that it can support all of their families. Responsibility means, making myself healthy, like eating healthy things, like keeping myself, mentally sharp, like working on myself as a person so I can help be a better asset to our company. I think you can be a responsibility in a lot of different ways. That's what it means mostly to me is keeping myself as mentally sharp and growing as I can so that I can help our company.
You said something earlier about apathy, or you asked about that. I think, well, I did earlier about the empathy and the apathy thing. Like empathy is having the compassion for for the others, but like too much compassion or compassion without direct communication leads to triangulation.
Okay, explain that.
Like if I have a problem with you and I don't tell you, I'm gonna tell someone and it'll come back to you, and you're gonna have a problem with me, and you're like unlikely to tell me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and now we have a problem. Whatever problem we had before that was about a thing is now confused with a who.
Mm-hmm.
So now we don't just have problems around things, the what's and the how's and the why's. We have problems around who's. And now we can't think because we need to speak to think.
It's funny. We've had this issue in our company before, where instead of people directly addressing issues or criticisms that I have with the other person, they come to that person's colleague, to that person's boss, right? And I think that absolutely leads to like the most toxic culture ever because we don't address the problems that we have with other people directly, right? We're not willing to have open communication. And I think communication sometimes can be harsh, right? It can be considered a a criticism, right? I think if we don't embrace that conflict, it can be very I don't know, it could be very harsh. I think if we don't embrace harsh conflict, harsh communication with each other, being open and honest with each other, then we can't keep each other accountable. It leads to a toxic culture, communication breaks down, et cetera, et cetera.
Amen. And this is very this is part of human nature. And I think leadership is a part is rising above our nature, right? There's certain supernatural, beyond nature, supernatural, spiritual values, right? The values are what we aspire to, what we our ideals. We all right, these are the commandments. Am I capable of living by them? Who do I have to become to live by them? That's the leadership. In the absence of the leadership, which is the acting towards these ideals, what happens? Things digress to nature, fight or flight. It's my food. It's not our food. I'm gonna eat. You're not. You're not gonna eat. I'm not worried about you. One of
Mm.
the and that's where leadership goes. What you just said, that breaks down trust amongst a group. One of
What in particular breaks down trust?
the in the lack of direct communication,
The triangulation that you're talking about.
and it takes the leader will like that idea of leader transcends title and hierarchy. Is values based. It's values based. So great people leave companies all the time or are exhausted by companies all the time. We see this in cultures. You know, people leave certain countries based on how they're being governed. Maybe in one country, I can't say what I think. I can't speak truth to power. So I go to another country where I can. And it's like on a spectrum. So that's what I mean by that. These values that we aspire to, each individual can live up to them. Like we have an opportunity to live up to these values. I could lose my job when I speak up. What does that mean? Speak up. The truth is up. Aim up. Right? I'm aiming up,
So how do you encourage
speaking
that
up.
within a culture? How do you encourage accountability both ways?
Well, maybe it's easier to look at it like what we don't do. Don't kill the messenger. Sometimes though, too, it's interesting. Like sometimes and it's also keeping oh yeah, don't or keep the people that you don't want. Like keep them around, the people that you don't want. Keep them around as long as possible. That will slowly destroy your culture. Keep them around. Live in fear of replacing people that you don't want. But this thing, like the listeners that we have that are disengaged from their businesses for whatever reason, it's gonna be scary. Like it's going to be scary. It's going to be a bigger risk. And I blame the culture. We have a culture that tells us as entrepreneurs essentially that we should feel shame and feel less than for working and working in our businesses and being responsible and being engaged. We have a culture that tells us that we shouldn't, like the books, the everything. It tells us that we should feel it's like all backwards, it's backwards.
It
Uh
is interesting because like that working in the business and working on yourself, trying to better the business, like that's where all the magic happens, right? Like that's where all the growth happens. That's where you learn all the lessons. Like I tell our guys every single day, like just be prepared to show up for something to go wrong. And if you do, like you're gonna be ready for it, right? Like you're
yeah,
not gonna be
taking
surprised.
metaphors, I think taking metaphors literally is a sign of stupidity.
In what way? Explain.
Like I need to work on the business. What does that even mean literally? Like, are we standing somewhere? Like, is that like, what is that? It's a metaphor
So you're
on
saying
the
you're saying
business.
working on the business is really, I mean, it is working in the business.
Working on the business is like what's implied in that is thinking, like reflection, thoughtfulness, honesty, communication, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, the integration of values and ideals. All right, like our words, our thoughts, our actions are integrated in the business, right? Where does that metaphor manifest? Well, okay, the other extreme is I'm not teaching fish nor giving fish. I am the fish and the fisherman. I like it's just me in the way of someone getting in that job description. That's it, like that's a metaphor. The in the business, it implies I'm everything. I am the business, and that is exactly how business starts.
Hmm.
So I think it's the extreme of either one. The extreme of in the business is there's no room for others to come and replace my multiple job descriptions as founder, let's say. Because
Hmm.
I'm everything. I do this, I do that, I do this. All the things that I do, if there's enough, as the customer base grows, all those things that I do will branch off to become job descriptions for someone else to do them
Hmm.
relative to me letting go, but letting go without growing, without, right? Then now I've just fired myself from all responsibility. So the other extreme, well, I think we hear on the business, that could lead one to, and this is what Peterson was coaching us on, I think. Rule number 4, notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated. I end up abdicating my responsibility because I have not created, I don't know what to do now. Or I think that, I don't want, maybe I don't want to do anything.
Hmm.
I don't have to do anything. Well, now we've digressed from an exciting revolutionary cause like the founding fathers. Now I'm George Washington, but I don't want to retire after 8 years. So now I'm just King George and I'm the king or the queen and you're my servants. So, like, these are the traps that us entrepreneurs fall into. And I think that's what I mean by taking the metaphors too literally makes us stupid.
Hmm.
The on and in is more of a flux. It's a fluctuation. It's like that infinity symbol. And we live between what is and what could be as the leader of the culture. And the work never ends. It is like it's an all-encompassing. It's like why do presidents age so much? Because they're working for the
So do you
betterment
feel
of
that us
billions of people.
as entrepreneurs, business leaders, do we have a responsibility to our people to work on the business instead of in the business?
Both. And have to have the discernment. I think it is as simple as when the leader doesn't die, everyone else does. Somebody might not want to hear that. I mean, hey, then that's the culture you'll have. You're the tyrant and you have slaves. It is that extreme. If the leader doesn't die for their company, then everyone else will.
Doesn't die and get reborn
Well,
as a greater leader, or explain that.
to die and get reborn as a greater leader means that there's a sacrifice of time and space and intention and attention. It's an all-consuming, all-evolving responsibility. Going back to the president of a country, why do they age so much? Because they're sacrificing themselves for the society. Like literally, they're how many hours they're called to, everything. Now, people that are listening, you know, maybe they don't give a shit about any of that. They're not interested in accomplishing anything significant or to have people that evolve as human beings. Because then fine, no problem. Just I would stop listening to this. You know, go watch The Hobbit.
Uh,
Although don't watch The Hobbit because that whole story is about this conversation.
yeah, yeah, there you go. There you go.
Like why we love these movies is their adventures. Yeah.
Sure.
Like, are
It's
you going
true.
to be the Hobbit, literally, like Bilbo or Frodo? The underdog, because that's what Frodo and Bilbo, that's the hobbits they represent. They're the lowest common denominator that saves the whole world based on love and courage, not power and authority. That's why the ring is so tempting. The ring of power.
So could the ring be selling your business? Could the ring be, giving up early to for profit and not for, the betterment of your people or the betterment of your service or the betterment of your product.
Oh, this is fun. We should do this show all the time, different movies, right? Isildur in Fellowship of the Ring. Do you remember the beginning where they talk about the battle of Sauron and the elves? Like there was the king, it was the humans, the dwarves, and the elves all came together to fight Sauron. And Isildur, yeah, he was the king. He refused to throw the ring of power in the volcano. He wanted to keep it. And the elf, I don't remember his name, Galadriel or something. I'm not that hardcore on it, but he was like, "You got to throw that in the fire," and he refused. So he keeps the ring, and it ends up corrupting him. It's like pride comes before the fall. To answer your question, I don't know how that manifests. Like, or meaning it can manifest in all sorts of different ways. Pride, fear, an absence of vision, and
Well,
the
it seems that the
values to
ring, the
serve.
ring too, is taking the easy way out, right? It's giving into the world. It's giving into, the pleasures of the world, money, easy profit, whatever it is, versus, the Hobbit is there to struggle through
Oh, this
and
is great.
destroy
Yes,
to
you're on to
destroy the
something.
ring. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it.
Oh my God. Wait, this is great. When Isildur keeps the ring and he wears it, what happens to him? What happens to Gollum? What happens to Bilbo? They develop a connection with the creator of the ring. And over time, the creator of the ring controls them. So, yeah, I'm going to sell my company. I'm going to solve all my problems because my problems are the money. If I just had dot, 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 now you have a new master. And you may not have developed the self awareness, the education, the experience, the emotional intelligence, the repetition of values to pick the right master. That's part of the reason you chose the easy route, the easier route. And so, who have you been having whisper in your ear? Sauron.
Yeah, but it's a good point because it's like the hobbits on their way to destroy the ring, like it was the struggle along the pathway that brought them together. It was that what made them into different people. It was what, grew them as leaders, and they were renowned in their community for going to destroy the ring. They traveled so far. Us as entrepreneurs, the farther we travel, the more we grow, right?
It's the purpose of
And
life
and
is
in the
find
end,
meaning
the
in the
the
struggle.
yeah, yeah.
What were you going to say?
And the success was so much greater at the end when they destroyed the one thing that was the most powerful thing. The thing they really wanted all was the ring, right? But the greatest success was finally destroying it and being free of that. How does that relate?
It's the opening paragraph of Maps of Meaning. Something we cannot see protects us from something we do not understand. The thing we cannot see is culture in its intrapsychic or internal manifestation. The thing we do not understand is the chaos that gave rise to culture. If the structure of culture is disrupted, chaos returns. We will do anything to defend ourselves against that return. That's the opening of Maps of Meaning, Peterson's magnum opus. Why is that the opening? Something we cannot see protects us from something we do not understand. The thing we cannot see is culture. Okay, it's that invisible architecture. It protects us from what we do not understand. What do we not understand? We do not understand power. Something we cannot see protects us from something we do not understand. The paradox of this pursuit of life is we pursue this thing we do not understand, this chaos. We pursue this power. But if we eat from it, we become Isildur. We become Gollum. We're Sauron. Example. I am so powerful. I am so famous. I am so idealized. I am at the top of the hierarchy. All of the opportunity to do bad comes to me with the least amount of consequences in the short term. I get all the opportunity to sin. It's just thrown at me. People want to give me their money. People want to give me their children to marry mine, they want the world wants to open itself up to me. People that don't know me worship me. It's a lot of responsibility with power. I am at the precipice of corruption. Something we do not understand, right? Okay, chaos. Something we do not understand about ourselves compels us towards like an upward striving, this pursuit of these worldly things, a lot of, worldliness.
It is interesting. As you were talking, I thought of another, aside there, that the ring corrupted the group. And so, you spoke of culture and how one person can be the corrupter of the entire group, can bring down the entire culture, right? In the movie, I guess the theme of this podcast is just going to be Lord of the Rings and the Ring. But
Part one.
the
Part
one
one.
ring started to corrupt the entire group, started to turn allies into enemies, started to turn the hobbits against each other. So does that one person in our employ, the one team member who has all the toxic traits, are they the ring? Are they the one that turns the whole company against each other, team
Ooh.
members against each other, and erodes away at the culture?
It's like the ring is a symbolic, even think about a ring, it's a circle, right? It's like an uninterrupted feedback loop. There's only one thinking. There's only one way to look at things. It's my way or the highway. One, one, it's just one. But that breaks down eventually. There needs to be a loop. There needs to be a breakdown of the circle. It's for a new circle. Like it's the circular motion, Jacob's ladder, like we're going upward. There's an upward striving. Just the circle, it inverts and it becomes a black hole. And we see this in business manifest. One thought, one word, one person, one rule. And look at, what is Christ's sacrifice really? As a What is it? It's, you know, the word. It's an interruption it's like a pattern interrupt. Why would we listen to the lowest person? Why would we listen to nobody? Why would we listen to just a crazy carpenter about anything important? It's blasphemous. Why would Action Asphalt's vision come down to what the janitor thinks? Because the janitor knows that if we don't fix the plumbing, we're going to be up to our throats in shit.
Well, every single person in the company has, in my opinion, equal importance. We are all striving to make the client happy, right? Like I say it
Here's where,
many times that yes, I may write the checks, but we all work for our client. And so, for me, every single person is equally as important. So every single person should have a voice and should know, what the vision is or have a vision for what the company should be. Is that kind of what you're saying?
yeah, I want to add something to it though, because um, democracies die because the voices that don't make any sense are not imprisoned or asked to leave in exile, or like there's a reason that even an open society has insane asylums, prisons, psychiatric wards. What's it called when you're house arrest, probation? As leader, if we don't think someone's voice matters, we need to make sure that we do something about it. Like, okay, this employee is not really working out. Well, then get them out and do it respectfully, you know. That's a big piece that is it. Yes, of course. Let's hear everyone, right? But sometimes people don't know what the hell they're talking about.
But they should still be heard only for the sake of making them feel valued, would you say? Even if their opinion makes no sense.
Well, how we talk to people matters, right? It's criticize in private, praise in public, like using common sense.
Like I say to our team, like, hey, if you have an idea, I will absolutely listen to it. I will absolutely take it into account. And if it doesn't make any sense and I think we have a better idea, we'll probably go with my idea. Will I still listen? Absolutely.
Let's use a case study. I learned this in Peterson Academy, and I believe it was in Michael Malice's course on Soviet Union. In the beginning of World War II, Stalin and Hitler had something in common. They had a lot of things in common, but one of the things they had in common was how they led their generals. Hitler would have his generals, who were much more expert and tenured in warfare, share with him their plans. Like for up to an hour, he would just let them speak.
Mhm.
At the end of that, he was known for just saying, "All right, well, we're going to do exactly what I wanted to do anyway." Stalin was very similar in his style in the beginning of the war. Winston Churchill,
Are you comparing me to Hitler and Stalin, Jay?
give me a chance to finish. um, we're all like Winston and the other two, I'll just say, because we're human beings and we have a capacity for evil. And so that's what the literature leans us towards. And it's a fallacy of it's a component of our pride that leads us to fall. So, but Winston Churchill led similarly prior to World War II, and he actually learned this lesson the hard way when he lost many men in the Dardanelles because he didn't listen to the feedback. He aggressively did what he wanted. In World War II, he would not make a decision if all three of his chief of staffs went against him. I learned this in the leadership course in the Peterson Academy. Dr. Roberts teaches, so separate course. So Winston learns the importance of, and I quote, having no men, people that would be willing to dissent. Whereas he only had a concept of yes men in his as a consequence of his, I mean, he was an enigmatic, magnanimous genius. And that can have some diminishing returns. People get excited about what you're about, right? Past performance doesn't dictate future performance. Financial Advisor 101. So Stalin had a similar style to early Churchill and to straight up, Hitler. What changed though after Hitler invaded Russia, Stalin went into a paranoia and went hiding. And his main generals came to him and begged him to come back into the trenches. And it was at that point he started listening to his generals. And I see that as a defining moment in Stalin's leadership evolution. And Adolf, had he listened to his people, maybe he would have never even, what would the world have looked like had he not invaded Russia? Like, that was, what the hell was he doing? So we're all susceptible to, and at the same time, this is important, you know, no one, it's so much easier to criticize in history our decisions as leaders. But I want to make this very clear on the show. So I'm really understood and heard here is that there's great power in more so in the direct communication and the letting go of the people that we don't think are rowing, that we don't believe that they're the best. Having that, having the self-respect to confront someone with respect
Hmm.
is something that can truly level up all parties and level up the culture. And it's not an either or to your point of like, should we listen or not? It's yes, listen, but we also have to, like, the burden falls on us to make the decisions.
Sure, and I think the other good point to pull out of there is, Winston Churchill had his no men, right? Embrace the criticism in our businesses, from the people that are, in the lower end of the hierarchy from us, right? The people below us, if they have criticism, if they have accountability, the accountability goes both ways. It should always go both ways, right? And so, to me, I take that as Winston Churchill had his no men. It had the people that would criticize him openly, would have that open communication with him and give him open, honest feedback.
What do you think? Um, what do you think? What other Lord of I mean this seriously. What else can we learn from the Lord of the Rings?
Power corrupts, too much power corrupts. I think a lot of times when we have too many people that look up to us that are yes people that do continue to just elevate us instead of pulling us down, instead of giving us that criticism, I think that we become corrupted. We become like we are God's gift to man. No one says no to us. No one criticizes us. And obviously, as we see in the Lord of the Rings, the power corrupts. Could be one. Got another one?
I was just thinking about how powerful my wife is and how little I get away with.
How was that in Lord of the Rings?
No, it's just the value of having, an accountability partner and a strong partner. Like how powerful and how little I get away with. Because innately, I um I think I'm a feeble, insecure, paranoid, argumentative, know-it-all, uh, overly anxious personality, cult, wrote a book once, have a podcast, egomaniac. Right?
A
Like, it's like, it's
couple,
like,
a couple things.
yeah, I wrote a book once, so I know, listen to me, right? Or like, oh, I have a podcast. So what does that mean? I spend a lot of time talking to people online. So it's like I immediately thought like how grateful I am, and yet while simultaneously be frustrated, marrying up. I can't get
Do
away
you
with much.
have any other people in your life besides Jenna that are your no men, or the people that will give you feedback? Because it sounds
Um,
like you have a lot of yes men in your life.
our oh my God, I want to give a shout out to all of our team. I mean, they do such we have strong people that work with us, and they tell the truth. Um, so that's a blessing. Um, yeah, I have a lot of people that give me all my advisors, mentors, um, all of them. Yeah. Peter Spurl, Gary Nash, Alan Weiss, Brad Lee, Gary, or yeah, Gary, the other Gary. Um, my mother's never had a problem telling me what she thinks. And, I'll give it to her. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I think I get a lot of my honesty and uh, from her example. Uh, so yeah, surrounded um, by strong people for sure. What a blessing. Thanks for the question. Haven't thought about that.
Blessing. Yeah. Yeah. I
It's a blessing. And you know what? No, yeah, I'm just yeah, yeah, they all make me better.
think everyone should have no people in their life. Absolutely. No men.
This has been a fun conversation. We didn't talk about anything that I was planning on talking about, which makes it even cooler.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Next
this was so
podcast,
much
we'll talk
fun.
about what you wanted to actually talk about.
Well, I want to, how you doing? What I think your word for 2025, wasn't it urgency?
Urgency. Yeah. Great.
Why?
Yeah. Life. I think I explained it probably best in my inner circle word description was I'm starting to see a lot of the people that I love, that I care for, start to pass away. And it's just a reminder to me to make sure to make the most of every single day, to make the most of the time I have with people left on this earth, to to do the most that I can on this planet while I'm still alive. Life is very fleeting, life is very short. And so urgency, starting to see people get older, man. I think it's as simple as that. And so we can have urgency in the personal development in our life, in the growth of our businesses, in our relationships, and all those things. And all those hit home for me.
Amen. What if you're what do you desire our audience to take away from this therapy session? For me, this was good.
Conflict avoided is conflict multiplied. Embrace the criticism, embrace the accountability from the bottom up. That's all I got.
Travis, I have a quote. Want to end this with number one, care for people. That is our absolute foundation and our focus in everything that we do. And it's not just our team members, but it's also our clients, it's the community, it's the properties that we work in, the people that live in those properties, that work in those properties. It's a major, major focus and care for people. And that spreads in everything we do. And it's our first thought with everything that we do in business. Travis, thanks for coming back on the Culture Matters podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, go listen to episode 506. Very different conversation. I challenge you to go watch The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, The Return of the King, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Adventure, I think the first one, then The Desolation of Smog. And I don't remember the title of the third movie. Damn it. If you don't understand these Lord of the Ring references, either get with the program and read the books or stop listening to this show. Unsubscribe. I don't want to be your friend any longer.
Uh, Thanks for having me on, brother. I appreciate you, man. And we're gonna go watch Lord of the Rings together right when we get
Yes.
off the show.
Yes, if you're interested in being our friends, look into the top contractor school, get involved, show up at a retreat. Recently, the one and only Dr. Jordan B. Peterson graced us with his rule number 4 and rule number 9, both in two of the books, Beyond Order and 12 Rules for Life, and more of those amazing experiences to come. And please share this with a friend who has clearly not much going on and wants to improve as a leader and as a friend and as a person of interest to grow their business and their company. Someday, people will know our names. Travis, thank you for coming back to the Culture Rush podcast. This was so much fun. And
I
I
love
can't
it,
wait for
man.
part 2.
Appreciate you, bro. Always good being a part of this. Thanks for having me on.